As the new ban list continues to roll out here, we start to touch October. I'm going to give you guys 10 cards that you're going to want to keep an eye on for the market. Make sure you guys smash the living crap out of that subscribe button so you guys don't miss out more awesome content. Number 1 on the block here is going to be Exosister, everything related under the sun. So Exosister, now that Tier has taken over as the supreme deck, I mean, it already was the best deck in the room, but you know what, we're just going to solidify that just a little bit here. This is going to be an engine that you're going to just kind of keep an eye on. Now, I'm not saying that this is going to be something to pick up. You might be rolling up on a good time maybe to drop your Exosister core, depending on how things, shape up. The TCG is not the OCG in the regards of, certain decks will perform better in other regions. But right now, with the way that things are kind of shaping up, I know a lot of people are going to be very excited to kind of get the chance to mess around with Exosister cards and see if they can stop the menace that is Tier, especially with the Beasted cards coming around the corner here. You're going to want to find yourself possibly picking these up or moving your core, whichever applies first here, all right? Next up is going to be Runic. Man, nothing to me is funner than milling out a Tier Element player after that they've started milling their entire deck. It's just... Now, there's a level of satisfaction to that, because when their deck basically facilitates them playing and then, milling through cards, well, you guessed it, ladies and gentlemen, you just help them on along a little bit, mill an extra 20. Oh, they got banished, you can't access them? That's a real shame. I do think, since Mystic Mine did stay free on the list, that this is definitely going to be one of those particular assortments that you're going to just want to keep an eye on, because you never know. I understand Eradicator epidemic virus is running around within the confines of the format, but to be honest with you, the things the Runic package does as an engine is relatively cute. So there might be some sort of developments with this. We'll kind of have to wait and see if that holds true. Next up is going to be the Evil Twin package. Now, I've already seen Evil Twin / Live Twins rocketing up to the moon. All right. The reason why I bring this up is this engine is predicted, or a lot of people are talking about, this is going to be the go-to for Runic, for Sprite, Robbie. Robbie, let me tell you what, man, a lot of opinionated opinions out here on this particular engine. Honestly, I'm just mentioning it here as if you have an Evil Twin core that you've been holding on, cards have rocketed up pretty high for this engine. If you don't want to mess around with Sprite and you've been holding on to your Evil Twin core, this might end up being a perfect opportune time for you to maybe sell. All right, it's interesting because you come up on opportunities to move certain cards, and then at certain other points you'll take a look at cards and you'll be like, maybe it's the time to pick this up. It really depends on what you yourself are deciding to do. So keep an eye on Evil Twins for Sprite. Speaking of Trickstar light stages, okay, so now that we saw some hits to our friends in the Sprite department, poor Ronan Toden, the Trickstar package now has triple copies of the field spell. Now, for those of you that don't know, Sprite was using the Trickstar package as a means to search for the level 2 that, when added to your hand, special summons itself. Also, in addition, Light Stage has that beautiful secondary clause on it that gives you the ability to basically lock an opponent's back row. Alright, now do not underestimate that spot removal effect on that stupid field spell, because that field spell will win you games. Trust me. Who would have guessed that a field spell that also searches and does other things would be as amazing as Light Stage? But now that the card's back at 3, you do have utility options within the sphere of things, so you definitely want to keep an eye on that, alright? Next up here is going to be spellbooks. Do I really... Spellbook of Judgment's at 1? What about the rest of the spellbook stuff? Everything that was high rarity spellbooks has orbited to another level. I used to play spellbooks, and I had the deck relatively high rarity, and right now I'm debating on if I want to move everything. But honestly, if you're just looking at Spellbook of Judgment as like a splash engine, there's some really cool things that you can do. All right, yeah, Mystic Mine with Spellbook of Judgment opens up like Pandora's box into like the realm of unfair. Trust me, it's not a very fun place to be, but it definitely gives you a interesting development for what you can do with the deck. So basically keep an eye on spellbooks. If it's something that you've been debating on wanting to pick up, the opportunity to do so is dwindling, but I would say a little bit further out, it'll definitely be interesting. Next up is Mystic Mine. Let's all do our part and play Mystic Mine for the format so we can help get this card banned, all right? That's honestly the best way to do it, and that was the best approach I saw players doing last format, was, you know, if Konami's not going to ban the card, I'm going to continue to play it. Yes, Mystic Mine did shoot up in price, but the thing was, this card as a whole for what it does within a format it's disgusting, especially on like a localized level where players for some reason just choose not to be prepared for it. It doesn't surprise me to see this, but in terms of price, in terms of application within the format here, you've been warned, ladies and gentlemen. The card is definitely going to be an amazing choice for the format here, and well, price tags continue to dictate these things. If you got them and you were holding them, congratulations, you made a lot of free money off of this, honestly. Next up is Eradicator Epidemic Virus. So the tier build that involves Curious, all right, Nightmare Griffin, bringing back the Eradicator Epidemic Virus to tear apart the opponent. Guess what? It's still sitting there. Nothing changed. Eradicator Epidemic Virus secret rares were in another zip code. Trust me when I say this, those higher rarity cards were not fun. All right, they went to an entire another level of existence. But as a card that's going to stand up to the metagame, the ability to anything spell related within the format, like Runic, Mystic Mine, Sky Strikers, I mean, you can call traps against Trap Lich. This card basically has multi-purposing aspects to wipe apart some of the best fields out there and just after you combo. So it's definitely something to keep an eye on in terms of like higher rarity up. All right. Next up is going to be Garura, the Wings of Resonant Life. So that new Super Poly target that we just got also has a fine text up. When this card is sent to the graveyard, would you like to draw a card? So you can go ahead and Nadir Servant and drop this. Go search for, your Ecclesia, and at the end of the thing, just draw a card. Multi-purposing cards, ladies and gentlemen. Particular things like this end up being some of the craziest things within Yu-Gi-Oh! And especially the fact that this was a TCG exclusive that opened up so many doors for what you could really do with this. Yeah, the card is really, like, the price tag is already skyrocketed, but in terms of resources, you definitely want to make sure you have at least one of these right now, whether or not it be for a Super Poly target or a Nadir Servant interaction point for the deck. So deal with that info what you will. Next up is Herald of Orange Light. I say this all the time, but to be very truthful with you, it makes sense. All right, the fact that tier is going to get so much better post Magnificent Mavens here that it's actually going to be crazy. But the thing here, ladies and gentlemen, is when you have a card that facilitates a negate, which then allows you to mill your deck post Mavens and then do things, when you can see something, a couple months out in advance to pick up, you don't have an excuse for this. We've known about Herald of Orange Light 4 months at this point in time, and Yu-Gi-Oh! Players just they keep diddle-dallying. They're like, I'll pick them up next week, and then the next week comes and they're like, oh my gosh, like they continue to disappear. Your time frame to get these is near nigh. All right, like you are almost too late at this point. So once again, I'm just going to point it back out. Perlereino or Herald of Orange Lights doing their job. And last but not least is Perlereino. Who would have guessed that the field spell for Tier Elements would shoot up in price? Yeah, who would have guessed? Not I. The fact that these are pushing about 100 plus now, you're reaching like Aluber max levels at this point, and that so many people right now are just like, I get it, man. I do. All right, you should have picked your tier stuff when they were $80. All right, it's the same thing I say all the time. You had very basic warning signs of what was going on with the format. Something happens, and then you're like, oh well, I guess it's over. So those are the top 10 cards / engines / decks I'd keep an eye on for the block. So guys, please leave a comment down below what you guys think, and I'll see your beautiful faces back here later in the day, guys. Peace out. Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.